Hey guys, welcome back. So Bernie Sanders has been trending a lot lately. He's really been in the news for highlighting the fact that billionaires are really having a ton of influence on our government, and in his eyes, are essentially taking over the government and really creating a system that works for the billionaires and not for the average person who is struggling. Now, this message from Bernie is nothing new. He really became famous for this in a mainstream way in the 2012 election and then subsequently in the 2016 election as well. But really, since he didn't partake in the last election in 2024, since there weren't any primaries on the Democratic side, he hasn't been as trending. But lately, with Trump winning, who is a billionaire, obviously, with Elon Musk endorsing Trump and then really becoming heavily involved in government, it really feels like Bernie Sanders' message is resonating with people in a major way. So let's take a look and see what Bernie Sanders had to say.
Thanks very much for joining me. Tonight we're going to do a bad news, good news routine. So stay with me. We start off with the bad news, which is pretty bad, but we are going to get to a happier ending. Let me begin by just telling you what you already know, and that is that under Donald Trump, this country is hurtling rapidly toward oligarchy, toward authoritarianism, toward kleptocracy, and toward more and more income and wealth inequality. That is what is happening. You'll all remember that Abraham Lincoln talked about a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. I think it is very clear that today we have a government of the billionaire class, by the billionaire class, and for the billionaire class. Elon Musk contributed $277 million to get Donald Trump elected president. And he was rewarded with the most important position in government. In other words, he put out the money and he got what he paid for. Trump also nominated 13 other billionaires to head various government agencies. So almost all the guys are running.
So I think that's really interesting. Like honestly, I didn't even know that until I saw Bernie said that he selected 13 billionaires to head various government agencies. I mean, not to say that all billionaires are terrible, and I'm sure there are some billionaires that probably care about the common folk. But when you think about the fact that most of these people don't understand what the average person is going through, right? Then you have Elon Musk, which, whether you hate him or love him, I don't think you're in between. You either hate him or you love him. Uh, it's really hard to argue that it's okay that as individuals, we get one vote, but a billionaire can spend over $100 million to really influence the election and then end up working really closely with the president. Not only that, I mean, it's never been more blatant where you see at the inauguration, all of the richest people in this country were sitting right behind the president. Mark Zuckerberg, Bezos, some dudes from Microsoft, I believe, Elon, obviously. I mean, it's never been more blatant and just in our faces. And I think that's really what Bernie Sanders is saying here. Like, it's not just Republicans, it's Democrats as well. It's always been a little bit behind the curtain. And now they're just being a lot more blatant about it. And it's like, if people don't get outraged now, they're just going to take over. Right? But let me know your thoughts on that in the comments.
Running the government are billionaires. For many years, as I think you know, I have been talking about how a country is moving toward an oligarchic form of society. And I know that people had their doubts. What is Bernie talking about? Well, not anymore. People now see what's going on right in front of them. No secrets about it. They're seeing the billionaire class running our government right now. But it's not just oligarchy and a government of the very rich that I'm concerned about. It is a very rapid movement toward authoritarianism. Virtually every day, Trump is usurping the powers of Congress. He is ending programs that Congress appropriated, and he's getting rid of agencies that he has no power to get rid of.
And honestly, again, whether you hate him or love him, that's a really interesting conversation to have there. Because what's going to happen if he technically, which it seems like he doesn't, legally have the power to get rid of certain agencies? They're taken to court, right, to try and reinstate those agencies. But then the Supreme Court is very heavily conservative, right? It's six conservatives, three liberals or Democratic appointed judges. So I think a lot of what Bernie Sanders is saying is, he's created a lot of influence in the courts at the highest level. He's trying to create more influence at the mid-level courts. And I think that's why he's saying this is kind of going towards authoritativism, because the judges, they're really supposed to keep the presidents in line, right? Kind of keep them honest. But let me know your thoughts on that in the comments.
Further, he has sued major media outlets like ABC, CBS, Meta, and the Des Moines Register for stories and actions that he didn't like. And now his FCC is investigating PBS and NPR. And he's threatening to withhold federal funding for these vitally important media outlets. This is clearly a massive attack on the First Amendment and freedom of expression. He doesn't like what some media are saying, and he is intimidating them. The message is clear. Hey, I'm the boss. Don't you dare criticize me. But it's not just Congress and the media that he's going after. He's also waging a massive attack against the judicial system. Unbelievably, he is actually trying to impeach judges who render decisions that he doesn't like. Think about it. Very few people who are watching this discussion tonight thought that the Supreme Court's decision on Citizens United or Roe v. Wade were good decisions. In fact, in my view, they were disastrous decisions. But we're kind of old-fashioned. We believe in the rule of law. That's what happened. Presidents appointed those people to the Supreme Court. We didn't go around saying, hey, you got to impeach Chief Justice Roberts and the other members. Terrible decision. That's not the way the American Constitution works. And that's what we believe. We actually believe in the Constitution. But it's not just Congress or the media or the judiciary that Trump is going after. He's now waging a vitriolic attack against major universities that are teaching courses or allowing activities he doesn't like. For years, we have heard conservatives talk about decentralized government, getting the government off the backs of the people. We've heard about education being a local issue. And now we have a president who is telling Harvard, Columbia, Princeton, and others what they can or cannot do. And in an absolutely unconstitutional and frightening way, federal agents have grabbed foreign students, thrown them into unmarked cars, and taken them to detention facilities. And what is their crime? What have they done that deserves that kind of treatment? Well, in at least one case, a woman wrote a article critical of Israel. In another case, somebody attended a demonstration. Do you really grab people off of the street, throw them in unmarked cars, take them to detention centers because they expressed a political point of view? And unbelievably, he is now going after law firms that oppose them, giant law firms. Can you imagine a president threatening a law firm because they represented a client or did something that you don't like? And Trump has also decided that he needs to lead the culture war in America. He has made himself chairman of the board of the Kennedy Center. So if you add all of these activities up, and I'm just talking about a small part of what he has done, it makes one thing very, very clear. Trump has very little respect for the Constitution of the United States and for the rule of law. He wants more and more power for himself and his fellow billionaires. He wants to lead an authoritarian nation.
Okay, guys, let me know your thoughts on all of that in the comments. I would love to hear from you. But personally, in my opinion, it seems like if the president, whoever he is generally fighting for your views advocating for things that you mostly agree with, even if you don't agree with all of them, if that president then does things that are questionable, does things that may or may not be within his legal powers, does things that might be morally questionable, I feel like whether you're conservative or liberal, you end up kind of forgiving that person, looking the other way, giving them the benefit of the doubt. I mean, let's be honest here. None of us have time to read every single law. It's hard to figure out what the laws are, what the truth is. Everything is basically just opinion driven narratives. Um, so, what I'm saying here is like, there's not a lot of accountability, right? Because if you're conservative, the liberals aren't going to like you no matter what. If you're doing something wrong and you're conservative, typically, for the most part, conservatives aren't going to keep you accountable. Same thing on the other side, right? Now, there are a lot of people out there that are reasonable. And I think a lot of people that like Bernie tend to kind of fall in that camp, right? And I think one thing that most of us have in common is we do want the system to work better for the average person, right? We do want the system to not be tailored in a way where it benefits the billionaires to get even richer, where you see presidents at their inauguration with all the richest people in the country sitting right behind them, right? And I think that's the biggest thing Bernie's kind of fighting for right now. But again, let me know your thoughts on that in the comments.
And to make a bad situation even worse, Trump and Musk are rapidly trying to dismember and destroy federal agencies that serve working families and the poor. Musk has laid off thousands of workers at the Social Security Administration, which will make it harder for the elderly and the disabled to get the benefits that they paid for. It's a massive attack against Social Security. Trump and Musk have also
So I'm going to be honest with you. That is a massive, massive issue because I've actually spoken to a lot of people on Social Security. And, if you go to a field office, I've heard people say, you wait in line for an hour and a half. And then they say, well, you have to make an appointment and you have to make an appointment by either calling or doing it online. You can't make the appointment in person, even though you're already there. Then you call and you're on hold for an hour and a half with the current staffing. Now they're cutting staffing. Then you have elderly folks that aren't really good at using computers and websites and things like that. So it's not a good idea to really make it more difficult for people to access their benefits, to ask questions about their benefits, and things like that, right?
decided to lay off some 83,000 employees at the Veterans Administration, which will mean
Forgot to mention as well, Elon went viral. I think he was on the Joe Rogan podcast. You might have to look that up. Maybe I'll post it later. Essentially saying that, now I could be wrong here, but he said something along the lines of that Social Security is a scam or Social Security is a Ponzi scheme, right? Let me know your thoughts on that.
that the men and women who put their lives on the line to defend our country, our veterans, will see a deterioration in the health care they receive at the VA and the timeliness of the benefits that they earned. And then on top of all of that, Trump and his Republican colleagues are now working on a huge reconciliation bill, which will make massive cuts to Medicaid, education, nutrition, etc. To do what? Why are they making these cuts? In order to give over $1 trillion in tax breaks to the 1%. So that's where we are. That is the bad news. And all in all, it is a pretty dismal.
I mean, guys, it's just crazy. We should not be giving any more tax breaks to billionaires if we're also cutting Medicare. So a lot of people who are disabled are on Medicare. A lot of children that have illnesses, genetic conditions, things that are debilitating from birth are on Medicaid, and the families would go bankrupt without it, and or the parent or the child could pass away because they don't have care. So that's the last thing we should be doing. And if we're in such a tragic situation financially in this country where they have to cut it, they shouldn't be also then be giving tax cuts to billionaires.
Situation. So now, let me give you some good news, some very good news. And that is over the last month, I and my House colleague, Alexandria Ocasio Cortez, have been traveling the country in what I've called a fighting oligarchy tour. I've been to Nebraska, Iowa, Wisconsin, Michigan, Nevada, Colorado, and Arizona, and the turnouts have been extraordinary. In Denver, we had more than 34,000
A lot of those are swing states too, by the way.
people turn out, the largest rally I have ever been a part of. And what I have learned from all of these rallies and meeting thousands and thousands of people is that the people of our country are sick and tired of Trumpism. They are tired of oligarchy. They are tired of authoritarianism, and they are prepared to fight back. And I should tell you, just to mention, I'm going to be in out west next week. In a week and a half or so, we're going to go to California and other western states. And we are going to continue to rally the American people to stand up to Trumpism and his contempt for American democracy. And let me give you another very good piece of good news, and that is on Tuesday night, Susan Crawford took on Elon Musk and the $25 million that he spent to win a seat on the Wisconsin Supreme Court. And I want you all to remember that just 5 months ago, Trump won a narrow victory in Wisconsin. And just the other day, Ms. Crawford won a strong victory. She won by 10 points. Pretty good victory in a state that Trump had won just 5 months before.
That was honestly a huge deal there, right? Because we saw Elon donate a bunch of money for Trump. It's hard to say exactly how much that helped, but it definitely helped to some extent. Then, this is really the next biggest election he's been a part of as far as donating, rallying, campaigning for that Supreme Court seat in Wisconsin. And honestly, a lot of people thought it was going to work, and then it backfired on Musk. So, are people getting upset that billionaires are taking over? Elon's favorability rating is like tanking like crazy. It's going to be interesting to see if he continues to have that influence or not.
Also on Tuesday night, in 2 congressional districts in Florida, where Trump had won by 30 points, Democratic candidates, while losing, cut that margin in half. Pretty good. So, where do we go from here? I think the answer is quite obvious. We have got to educate, we've got to organize, we've got to fight back effectively with discipline and intelligence. And if we do that, in my view, we're going to win this thing. And right now, I should tell you, we are not only doing rallies around the country, we are also hiring organizers at the grassroots level to help us build the kind of grassroots infrastructure that we need if we're going to be successful. And let me just mention to you that just a few hours ago, I was on the phone with our friends in the 1st District of Iowa. I had been to Iowa City last month, and we got a whole lot of folks coming out. We got names, we got emails, we called them up, and we had tonight, just a few hours ago, over 500 people in the 1st District of Iowa on the telephone. And almost all of them signed up to get to work, to help us organize, to knock on doors, to hold meetings.
So Bernie's basically trying to get people riled up for these midterm elections. And basically, Bernie's out there really fighting for the average person. I think one thing that's a great point that Bernie's made recently as well, that's not in this particular video, is that a lot of people voted for Trump because the system's broken, because the system's not working for the average person. I think most people would agree with that. Even if you're doing well, I'd say, the odds are kind of against the average person. Okay. But he argues that it's the right problem, but not the right solution to basically put billionaires in charge to fix the system to work for the average person. Kind of makes sense because, why are we putting billionaires in charge to try and fix a system that's working for billionaires? Well, in any case, guys, let me know your thoughts on that, and hopefully I'll see you on the next video.